Hi, I'm Beverley Mackenzie. I'm a PhD student at Abertay University, where I'm looking at blockchain and IoT. I'm looking at whether or not the consensus protocols behind blockchain, proof of work, and all that stuff can be used to secure IoT devices. There's my qualifications. I did my specialist areas. I did a master's at Royal Holloway, and in that I looked at advanced cryptography. And if you need to contact me, you can contact me at Abertay. First of all, I'm going to introduce you to the Internet of Things. Then I'm going to tell you what they can do, why it's exploded right now, how they work, what their vulnerabilities are, what the threats are, and what you can do to protect yourself, and what the industry should be doing to protect us. I'm also going to touch on some of the, you've probably heard of some of the Mirai, Persirai, Hajime, which is the vigilante worm, and Silex, which is quite a Britain pot, which is kind of scary. So let's get into it. The Internet of Things, we've all heard of it. They're everywhere. They're in your fridge, they're in your Hoover, they're in your children's toys. And the industry is completely exploded with Internet of Things. But there are some problems, things that haven't been worked out. The fact that it's a heterogeneous network, things don't work together. There's no standardization. So you have the interoperability problems that we'll touch on later. Then you have the security issue. From the academic point, we've worked out this time we've actually been ahead of the curve. We've learned from the internet. We've learned the problems that happened when the internet exploded and there were security issues. From an academic point of view, we know that you need integrity, confidentiality, authenticity, immutability, non-repudiation. You can reel them off, you can explain them. I can tell you the mechanism you can use to implement them. But industry doesn't seem to be interested. They just want to go there and they want to sell you stuff. And in fact, as of next year, all new cars will have IoT devices fitted into them, which, from my point of view, is quite scary because that brings a whole new complexion to carjacking. I mean, you can jack a car from in your house while sitting in your underpants when that happens. But they're going ahead with it. That's where they want to go. So why now? It's kind of a bit of a perfect storm. It starts with power and speed. You're probably familiar with Moore's law with regards to memory. Memory, speed and size will decrease and increase every year. And right now, the capability of some of these devices, the memory capability, is greater than the capability I had in my first computer I bought 20 years ago. So it's just, they can do so much in such a small form. And then you've got IP version 6, which has been coming on board forever. As you can see with IP, I'm going to go on to none, but with IP version 6, you have enough IPs available for every man, woman, child and cat to have over 1 billion IPs to themselves. So everything in your house now can have its own address. And then you've got Elon Musk. He's got to get into everything. 46,000 satellites at this moment are being put up in the sky by Elon Musk, which means everywhere on the planet now you will be able to have the internet, which means the time is right. It can be done. Right. IoTs are basically small form computers. They're very similar, but they don't have a hard memory. They just have a non-fixed memory. It's wiped every time you turn your computer off. There's no standards. So the network, they use a mesh network, but that mesh network will be unique to the organisation or the company that's built it. They just basically, they store data, but they switch that data when it's gone. So it's like an early computer, I don't know how far back you lot can remember, but I had a computer back in the day which had only memory. So I had 5 1/4, which was one card you put in A and B, and you'd have to switch out each time you wanted to load something, which I thought was great. But it didn't have any fixed memory. It just wiped it. And they're similar to that. But they have a couple of problems which can be dealt with because the memory is so great, it can be dealt with. They have fixed or no passwords. I've got a BT router in my house. It does an awful lot of strange things, and there's a lot of strange traffic going on. And I've tried to break into it. It's in my house. And I've tried to fix it. But the password is fixed, and whatever I do, whatever's coming onto my router comes on. And BT actually opens up the router to say they've got massive coverage in the country. They allow traffic that's passing by to actually use your router in your house that you paid for, which is like, I just paid for that, a violation. So you have no way of controlling these things in your home. They really have end-to-end security. There's no tunneling, there's no transport. A lot of the stuff that goes on is in clear text. And you can't patch them, which means that move fast and break something motto an awful lot of developers really can break something when it comes to IoT, because you can't go back. You can't change it. So the vulnerabilities. Well, there's two types of vulnerabilities that an IoT device can be subjected to. There's the vulnerability that will affect you, and there's a vulnerability which they utilise to affect everybody else. So the vulnerabilities that will affect you will be radio frequency ID blocking, or wireless jamming, or can you imagine if your whole house eventually goes over to IoT and someone takes it down? The ransomware that can take place because of that. If you want your home back, if you want your electricity, your fridge, your Hoover, your children's toys to work, pay us money. These are things that are coming into the future because they're being put in and security is not there. And then you have what interests me, the IoT hackers coming in, the command and controls that are being set up using your IoT devices. Quite early on hackers realised that IoT devices were really, really good for denial of service or distributed denial of service attacks. And we have seen proof of concept, the Mirai attack, the Persirai, sorry, my pronunciation on these words aren't so good, attack, the Linux moose. These are proven that IoT devices can and will be used to attack us. Let's just go back to the vulnerability. I alluded to the fact that the security is really poor. I read a report from Hewlett Packard, which was actually quite scary. The jump out thing was the fact that 80% of IoT devices, that's your cars, their IoT devices now being used in planes, have poor or no security. In fact, I've got a 10-year-old, and he actually hacked and cracked into an IoT device because he was bored. That's how poor the security is. 60% of IoT devices, they send your information out in plain text. Now, I work in security. I've been in the field for 20 years, and I am paranoid. I shred everything. I shred it. I shred barcodes on Amazon just in case the barcode could be decoded and it could come back to me in my address. But what's the point? If my IoT devices are telling everyone where I am, what I've got, what I'm doing, what's the point of me trying to be secure? So, am I just a paranoid security person? Because everybody who works in security, I've been told cybersecurity are a bit whatever. Maybe. Maybe location tracking with GPS via your IoT devices won't happen because we live in a lovely world and people won't do that. They won't profile you or profile your child. Your privacy will never be violated and there will never ever be ransomware. But I think it's coming. IoT ransomware. And there has been proof of concept. things have started to happen in the IoT arena where identity theft, child abduction hasn't happened yet, and hopefully never will. But children toys, there was a child's toy, I'll talk about it, built in Germany, and it was a teddy bear, and it could take pictures of your lovely child. It was an IoT device, and it would send that data to some place, somewhere, for some reason, and it could listen to your child and send that to exactly the same place. And it had no encryption on the data. The storage place that the information was stored didn't have physical security, and that was fine because it wasn't encrypted. And this was a big story in Germany about 5 years ago, and that was the first proof of concept about how they were treating the data. Now, if I was a miscreant or a cracker, if I wanted to find a child with this information flooding out onto the internet, and it's not just happened in Germany, there's been other pet cloud toys, and I think there was an incantation of a Barbie that had IoT that kind of got pulled off the shelf quite quickly because of security issue. So this has happened over and over and over again. It was called the Smart Teddy Bear, but my favourite is the Weeping Angels. I was a bit of a Doctor Who person. And I really liked the Weeping Angels episode. I don't know if you lot saw it. But CIA and MI5 decided to pool their resources and their knowledge and exploit some IoT devices in our home. I think it was just a proof of concept thing they did. And what they did was they hacked into everyday citizens in America and the UK TV, and they started to record people just randomly to prove it could be done. And they call the operation the Weeping Angel because don't blink and don't close your eyes, coming out of a Doctor Who episode that it came from. And then you had the Hello Barbie and the Cloud Pets. Sorry, I've repeated that. So let's just walk you through some of these things. Mirai. I presume you've all heard of it, Mirai. Yes, no, show of hands. One person. Okay. It was a proof of concept, and it was the first time that a DDoS attack from IoT was done, and it was so successful that they thought they'd release the script and all the other stuff onto GitHub. And so, since that point, we've seen lots of different incantation of the Mirai bug. But what it did was, because of poor password, no password, it was able to basically hijack your IoT devices and use them to create a denial of service attack on Dino, D-Y-N, which was American DNS server company. And the side effects of that was that it brought down GitHub, Netflix, and other companies like that. But if I was working down in sort of the onion router, this would have been my proof of concept before I started to sell my services. And that's, in my mind, that's exactly what it did. And quick on the heels, once that code was pushed out, you had Persirai. And it did pretty much the same, but it used a peer-to-peer. So it jumped from one peer to another peer. Because it's a mesh network, you're in contact with the next thing on your network. It's kind of and so it used that to infiltrate everything in your house. It moved around really quickly. And it used an exploit in cameras, which is a plug and play, which leaves your ports in for them to have access to your network. They open ports via the plug and play, so no matter how many times you close the port down, it would be reopened. The other thing I didn't mention, right, what was really interesting was the fact that they chose not to hit the private networks, the 10s, the 168s, and the 192s, and they chose not to hit the defence, which also showed me that these were people who were being quite canny, and they were looking to put a product out there which wouldn't sort of upset large organisations or the United States defence, which shows me that it was a proof of concept. But we come back to this one. This one used an exploit in cameras, which are plug and play. Cameras open up ports to send information and then close it down. And that was quite interesting because you can't actually lock that down if you've got IoT cameras on your house, which means not only do you have poor password, but they've actually basically left a door open to your home so that people can come in and out. And then the Linux news, I like this one because it showed a monetization. It shows the first monetization that could be used by the masses. And that was quite interesting. It was basically any system that had Linux embedded in it could be used, but fundamentally they were going for routers. And what they were doing was they were monetizing these DOS attacks by getting cookies to your social network. They could then sell that to other people to increase, their likes, their followings, or whatever happens in those places. And so people were actually buying this, and therefore it was another proof of concept to people who wanted to go down into the onion router. But this actually could be, you can make a profit out of this. I mean, you can make a big profit out of this. And finally, Hajime. Hajime, they call the vigilante. I'm not sure. But what he did was he was interested in finding Mirai. So it was like a battle where he would find IoT devices that were infected by Mirai, and then he would clean them up and leave you a nice message just telling you he was a white hacker improving your security. People have also his code was he wasn't a script kiddie. He was actually someone who had an awful lot of knowledge because he rewrote most of the code, and it was much more effective. And in some ways, if that code is actually caught by people on the miscreant side, the crackers, then that could actually cause more problems than it's actually resolved because his code was much more sophisticated. Excuse me. And finally, Silex went back to the old BritBox. And that was really interesting because Silex was just malicious. There was no funding. There was no proof of concept. This was just malicious, where they used command like rm minus rf. They used your lookup table, your network lookup table, and then wiped it out. They did an awful lot of stuff to just brick your bot, which there's no profit, there's no reasoning. So this was just a malicious. This would be something that might be used by a sort of nation state if they wanted to undermine the infrastructure of a state, because you could, if you consider everybody's electricity is now on IoT, or they're making us go onto smart meters which use IoT. And if you consider there are 23 million homes in the UK, and you consider some guy decided it was a really, or gal, decided it was a really good idea to be able to disconnect you from central office. But if you need to be reconnected, you need to go out to someone's home to reconnect them. Then if you could brick all these devices and disconnect them, that's all 23 million, you would need to then send people out to 23 million households to reconnect them. If you were going to do cyber war, you could actually wipe a country out in the middle of winter by just disconnecting the electricity. There'll be no way to reconnect you in time before a few million of you froze to death. And that's the potential they stuck in when they built, when they informed us that we had to go onto these new electric meters. Now, that's just stalking, raw taking new convention. So, how do we protect devices? What's really, really frustrating as a security person is academia has done its homework. We've got the stuff. There are white papers out there. I've written white papers on this. I've gone and spoken about this in places in America, in the UK, in various different parts of North Africa. And it's simple. Integrity, confidentiality, authenticity, data, non-repudiation, immutability. These things are easy to do. I can even write the program for you, although I have to write in Go, because it's my favourite program at the moment, Golang. I could write the program for you encipherment and digital signature. Academia has identified this with written paper, but still the industry is choosing, industry for profit motives or whatever motives, are choosing not to implement the required security. So that means you need to protect your own back. What can you do? Get informed. I refused to put the new electric meter in my home. It's not happening. I'm off-grid for water. I'm off-grid for heating. I live in the middle of nowhere, so I'm off-grid. I'm going off-grid for electrics. Get informed. Don't get bullied. You're paying £1,000 for them to put an insecurity in your home. You're paying for the pleasure. Tell others. Check things out. Don't buy cars which have IoT devices in but has no end-to-end security on them. Because if you crash and you claim your car wasn't working right, acting right, there's no black box in your car to prove it was a software error. It will be down to you. The insurance will say it will be down to you. There's no, blocking this or stopping it from happening, so don't buy those cars. Get involved. There are IoT meetups all around the country. I don't know if there's one around here, but there's a few in Scotland, in Edinburgh, which is where I'm from. There's some down London and Bristol. Get involved with the IoT meetups, because until the industry realise, our security, our finance, our children, our homes, we pay to have these things and we want them to be kept safe. They need to keep it safe for us. Until the industry realise we're not giving them more money to make us more insecure, they will continue to fail to implement very simple security requirements. So refuse to buy poor security. I'm not sure when it was announced. It was either the end of last year. I think it was the end of last year. Google, Apple, and some other people, the big players, Amazon, Zigbee, not 6LoWPAN, which is strange, but they all got together and they sat down and decided we're going to standardise things. And they're promising us that by the end of this year, they're going to standardise things, so the interoperability problem will be gone. But they're also going to take security serious, and they're going to put some really good security stuff on. So be aware. I mean, if you get involved, keep them to check, see what they're doing, call it out if it's wrong. Because at the end of the day, unfortunately, this will affect us all. This is our future. And right now, they're playing loose and fast with our safety. There's references. Any questions? Sorry, I forgot to say thank you for listening. Sorry, yes?
I've got, obviously, it's coming on itself as well to change passwords and things like that. The IoT Security Foundation are obviously trying to offer very policy security on the side of it, and to adopt more sort of security for disclosure. I think California has IoT companies sign up, so
this is not mandatory, is it?
Pardon?
It's not mandatory.
No, exactly. Do you think the UK government, or should be doing more, or are doing more, or how is it going at the moment with the sort of government side of things?
I'm never keen on the government getting involved in stuff. I mean, we have members of last Parliament trying to remove cryptography from thinking it's a really bad thing. Until they wanted to use WhatsApp and hide behind it. So I'm never very keen on the government getting involved in security or legislating on it, because I don't think they understand security, they don't understand cryptography. This has got to be industry-led, and this has got to be people-led. People have got to say, we're not buying. I mean, if you went to a restaurant and they gave you really, really bad food, you wouldn't keep going back to get really bad food. Well, this is to do with our homes and our finance. So we are going to be the ones who actually move this in the right direction. But no, I'm not interested in the government. Also, I think there's been 52 different initiatives so far on IoT devices where we're going to do this, we're going to do that. The industries have come out and made promises, but they're broken. So my hope is, with the new initiative from the Connected Home over IP initiative, because Microsoft drew up a security life cycle, and when they now develop stuff, then they've moved away from that move fast and break something concept to more you have a security life cycle in with your development life cycle. So I'm hoping they continue that in their program and in what they put forward. But it's also about us. We're the only one who really care about us, and we are the ones who actually speak out against it. Anything else? Any more questions?
Do you think, without sounding too doomsday about it, we stand any chance at all with users who post Cambridge Analytica still give all their details to Facebook, who with talk major breaches still use them, with the willingness to pay less to get a product? You know, you saw with the I forget the name of the company now, but the UK-based company that had a number of children's devices that got breached. They saw no drop in sales. It was
that's happened a lot? Yeah.
Just carried on. Do you think the general populace will care?
Do you know what? I think I use intrusion detection and intrusion protection on all my systems. I'm kind of really paranoid. I think the people that cover their butts will care, and they will do what's necessary. But there will be the masses won't until they have to. Until someone breaches their home, then they will care. But until it actually happens to them, they won't care. But I think there are sections of society, maybe the 20/80 rule, which seems to be predominant in lots of things, that there will be 20% of people who will put in the necessary security, and then 80% really will need to experience it before they realise what they need to do. So for some it will be a revolution, and for some it will be an evolution.
I think it will be the case, and I guess with coming off grid, you take those steps to protect yourself, but you also want to build a moat, because when everyone else's lights are off and yours are on, they'll head your way. But
didn't think of that one.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Thanks.
Get a spade.
Sorry, yeah?
Yeah, I was wondering whether you kind of had a view on centralisation versus decentralisation. You kind of mentioned blockchain, but very much in passing. I wonder whether you think it's got a role to play here in the IoT.
Okay, well, this is actually because blockchain does have a role to play. You're talking about private and public blockchain with centralisation and decentralisation blockchain. Where were you coming from?
I'm just picking this out of your slides rather than having an agenda.
For this to work, it will need to be via smart contracts, and smart contracts have to be in a private blockchain environment because you want confidentiality. Therefore, there will need to be some form of centralisation. But then you will still have some form of mesh network. But there will be the contracts, the smart contracts, the way you validate different application devices will need to be centrally held in the same sort of design that you have DNSs where you. So if I've gone over. So I think you will have to have centralisation to some extent, but not one body, more just for authentication, and you need some form of centralisation. I can't see the time. Do I need to stop?
Yeah,
Sorry, thank you. Thanks for listening.